We act like this a studio, this really just a trap.
What's up, guys? It's episode I don't know, but we were a few in. So today we have Jeff Wynne on with us, and he is an investment guru. No, he's not.
Yeah, let's not go with guru. Let's not oversell this.
That's cheesy. No, he's been a friend of mine for years, and he's definitely the person I go to for anything financial and investment-wise, what's good and what's probably dumb, which 97% of what 99% of what I say to him is probably dumb, but let's go from there. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give us your background, give an idea to the people, the 7 that probably hear this.
No, I love it. Well, thanks for having me on this podcast. I'm extremely pumped up, and for those not listening, this is, I think, Cecil's first real professional one. We're looking at actual microphones, yes. And this is fantastic.
Yeah, I can't believe it's got to this either.
Hey, this is good stuff. Let's do it right. If you're going to do something, do it right.
Exactly.
So yeah, just a quick about me. I've been in some form of investing really for probably the past decade through a Fortune 500 company before the company I'm with today. I currently work for one of the region's larger technology firms, and I do a lot of their emerging businesses. So day to day for me,
right.
It's should we be in this business?
Right.
And a lot of that's numbers, but a lot of that is what we're doing right now. It's having the conversations. It's doing common sense. And so I don't think 99% of what you said is wrong. In fact, you've got some pretty insightful things about how you look at things.
Right.
So hopefully today we can just kind of, hit back and forth some tricks that I've picked up.
Yeah.
Personally, I've started kind of rolling some of those ideas to what I do, and carry certainly equities like anyone else does, but also started to delve in a little bit of real estate and approaching that first dozen properties. And so I'm excited about that as well, and play. Hey, I don't only do it work, I believe in enough to do it with myself.
Right. And that's the thing. To me, it seems like it's easier to invest other people's money than your own in some respects. I mean, I tell people about investments all the time. It's like, man, it's a really good investment, but I'd be scared as shit to invest my own money to it. And then somebody does it and they just make a ton of money. And I'm like, God damn it, missed that one.
It's an interesting thing because it's almost that emotion. People say don't invest emotionally. And so you have, I think what most people commonly say is that they're, oh, well, shit, he's so enamored with it. He's like, I'm going to go for it. Yeah, it's a terrible investment. Don't do that.
Right.
But the opposite's true too. When when I look at something for, the company I work for, I can do it completely dispassionate from it. I can just say, hey,
binary.
It's binary. I can look at the numbers. I can say, I met this guy. So I was in San Francisco. Actually, I was in Silicon Valley last week, meeting with a company that we've invested 7 figures with thus far around business. And frankly, it's not selling the way we would like to. And so this was more of a come to Jesus conversation. Right. And we were going to either pull the plug or move forward. And over dinner, again, just eye to eye, in this particular case, there's 4 of them, having that conversation of saying, no, we really actually misunderstood and we weren't positioning it right. And it came down to something very simple that we probably should have taken care of, 30 days ago, much less that, but we got it down.
Right.
And so, but in that case, I can go back and went back this Monday to the board and said, hey, we need to stay. They're like, no, we've already lost enough. We need to stay.
Right.
Then the question is, well, would you do that with your own money? And I'll tell you, my board absolutely asked me that. Yes, I would. And so I think that's the key here is you're going into this journey with your bar.
Right.
At what point can you kind of disassociate yourself and say, look, if I was actually just investing someone else's money and you would say yes at that point, probably should say yes for yourself too.
Right, exactly. In situations like that, this is my perspective and this is just my way of thinking. Do you ever, like in that instance with those guys, they're the ones working on it and things aren't going the way they are. Do you I know you don't do social, but do you go on their Instagram and look and see what the fuck they've been doing? Have they been working, or have they been going to fucking South by Southwest, doing shit like that, spending that money they're getting invested and not putting in the work? That's the way I would do it, but
hey, due diligence is due diligence.
Right.
So yeah, 100% I'm going to go look social. So in this particular case, this is another Fortune 500 company.
Okay.
But the question ultimately is so I'm doing my creeping from that perspective.
Right.
Who are they buying? Who are they looking at?
Right.
Are they cheating on me? Just
Yeah.
as stupid as it sounds, it's exactly right.
Right.
So I think you're hitting on a key point. Any investment you do is due diligence. Everyone does it beforehand.
Right.
But do you do it during too? Hell yeah, you better.
If you're not doing it right.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. So when we talk about investing in in any investment situation, somebody has a product or an idea or whatever, there's not like a standard invest in this person agreement. It's the way I understood in our conversations is you can do whatever the fuck you want with the agreement. Have you? I guess for people out there that really don't know anything about investing, like myself, if they're going to an investor, what do you think? Because there's no way you're going to win. I don't think like you're not going to. The investor's always going to have advantage most of the time.
I actually would disagree with that. Okay. So to answer your first question,
yes.
Is there a standard investment?
Right.
And the answer is no.
Right.
But that's where the opportunity lies. It is. So in this new organization, I stood this up net new a year ago, and so a lot of the people.
This is a whole new thing.
This is a whole new thing. We didn't look at from a service perspective and investing in new businesses this way previously. So 12 months ago, this didn't exist, and so a lot of the organization I've talked with is that they come, well, Jeff, what's our standard methodology? So, well, what do you want it to be?
Right.
And at the beginning, it was almost kind of a joke to see what would come back out. And we got some really interesting things. So I, formally trained. I have my MBA, and so I could go take you through. Okay, we're going to do an NPV on here. We're going to do a value analysis. Blah blah blah. All very valid stuff. But the reality is, the investment itself. So in this case, a bar is going to be different for what everybody wants. And so the question ultimately asked before you even get into an investment is, what are the values that you're providing, and what do you want? So let's say in your case, you want to own that bar because you want to put your stamp on it.
Right.
Well, that might limit the amount of equity you're willing to sell to it.
Right.
So debt financing might get a lot more interesting to you. So when you're approaching an investor, you approach an investor for a variety of different ways because the investor is also looking for something different. So in a true world, it's not the investor has an advantage. If you're going into a situation that you even have that in the back of your head, run screaming away as fast as you fucking can.
Right.
It should be about how is everyone going to win in this?
Right.
And so if you know that right off the bat, and this is where I think the onus does fall upon you, though. But I'll talk about where the investor has some responsibilities too. But the onus falls upon you is about clearly painting that picture.
Right.
And don't hide what the value is for you.
Right.
But also don't hide it for what that investor is.
Right.
And so in a bar situation, there's a lot of people, they just got their inheritance and they want to go buy.
Right.
Well, maybe that's your investor. And so you can look at these angel investors. And so generally an angel investor, it's pre-revenue. They're really bidding on an idea.
Right.
Whereas you have more, say, formal investor, more venture capitalists, they're going to look for what's the revenue models. They're going to be a little bit more formal around the numbers. And they're going to want you to prove something. And there's certainly differences between, say, a small business and a technology firm.
Right.
Then you have investors like a bank.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you have to look at a bank and as an investor too, because when you start talking to those, there's real people behind those numbers. A lot of people, it's the bank, but there's real figures behind it. So I would really say it's that there is no one size fits all. So we can kind of talk about maybe down some of those strains, but it's also about it's really going to determine how you're going to make that happen from the value that you're bringing and the value you're trying to create for both you and your investors.
Right. So, and that's you're correct with saying proof because that's all. I definitely have to show what I'm giving them. I get that and how we're both going to win. And it's just the only thing with somebody that got inheritance and using their money to invest. Here's the only thing that I would fear in that, and I've got to change my perspective on it. But it's having those dickheads come in there and act like they're the owner and they're gonna just buying everybody's shots and doing all this other shit, and then every little thing they're gonna want, especially if they don't know anything about the bar business, they're gonna be like, well, why don't you do it this way or this way or this way? Which I'll listen, but at the end of the day, it's just wasting my time because unless I'm open-minded, I will listen, but it's just like, fuck, man, I don't need you coming in here acting like a bro, like we're running a business here, And that's the only thing I fear.
But broing out's a lot of fun.
It is. Don't get me wrong. On a Saturday night, you want to bro out? That's cool. You're paying your tab, though.
And that's the thing. And it may be for what you're looking for.
Mhm.
It may be a really shitty idea to find those people. And that's why I said run screaming away.
Yeah.
Because the value you want
Mhm.
is not the value they want.
Right.
And so sitting up front is like, look, if you want again, let's go play with a few of these because I think
Okay.
this will be fun to go
Yeah.
through it. One of the areas that for the bro investor, let's call him the bro investor.
We'll
bro
go
investor, I like it.
That's
So the bro investor is if you're sitting down and say, guys, what do you want? Well, chances are what they're going to tell you, they're going to give you some kind of canned answer, right?
Mhm.
It's, well, I just want to own a bar.
Right.
I just want to be part of something like that.
Right.
But and this is where your value comes in,
Right.
you know exactly what they're going to do.
Right.
3 o'clock in the morning, shots for everybody.
Right.
Let's go do this.
Right. The only reason bros want to get in is 2 things. For the bros and then for the women that are running around all day. We know that. That's why any male gets in the bar business is for women. That's or whatever they're into. That's why they do that. That's why anybody gets into it.
Sure.
But then, anyway, bro investor.
So the question would be is if they really want to be in, it's set the expectations up front. Don't hide anything.
Right.
Just say, look, right now, when you sign up for this, whether it's debt, whether you're equity, convertible, there's a lot of different vehicles you can get them entrance to it.
Right.
But make sure they clearly understand you don't walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings, you don't walk into a TGI Fridays, you don't walk into any kind of a big chain restaurant as an investor to that.
Mm-hmm.
Start ordering shots. It's not going to happen in your spot either. And if you set those expectations up front and just, I will kick you out, I will call it the cops. You don't have a managing interest in this.
Right.
That's you as, again, as maybe a more mature investor comes to you, that they're going to want to know that you might have some of that money in the pot.
Right.
But that you have that control because you understand what's happening.
Right.
They might love it. These
Right.
guys might do it for nothing. Right. Because they want the social aspect of it. They want I own a bar. Hey, take advantage of that. Not in a negative way, but take advantage of it. You're giving them an outlet to that, but setting those expectations up front.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's I like that. And then, I always.
But let's say it's a shitty idea.
Right.
Right. Fuck that. I don't want to deal with bros.
Right.
So the next group is, all right, I want to go make some money. Mm-hmm. And this is a scenario in which you've got to up your game. Because anyone who wants to make money, you've got to really talk about what that value. And the first value is when you're presenting to them, you got a minute.
Right.
And so you've got to paint that picture. So let's say the bro idea is just a shitty idea.
Right.
There's a ton of headaches you probably don't want to deal with.
Right.
So let's up our game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with guys or gals who want to be in the business. They want to invest in this, but they are ultimately looking for an outcome. So
we'll call them value investors.
Value investors sounds good. Normal investor.
Right.
We can further slander the bro investor. It's so in that situation, number one is give them a vision. Give them something excited about.
Paint the picture.
It is paint the picture. One of the things I see poorly a lot is people will come in, new technology, new business, and they'll talk about the numbers. And I want to know the numbers. I am a numbers nerd all day long.
Right.
But that's not what I want to hear first. I want to hear first while it's something fundamentally different. Maybe a little outside of this topic, we were talking about this new security technology. I got a million security technologies, but the guy did a great job. He's like, what if I could tell that it's not you on your phone because you're holding it, this guy's holding it with the left hand and I know you're right-handed. That's pretty damn interesting. What if the mistakes that you normally make on your keyboard, I'm tracking that. That's all tracked right now. Yeah, that's scary. We can have a different podcast on that one. But I know that this guy's making different mistakes. And so that's another key. This probably is not you on that phone. So I lock that phone out. Is that interesting to you? So yeah, it's damn interesting. So he sold me on a novel concept that his data analytics looked differently. Right. So on your bar, if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to do a sports bar, I'm doing an Irish bar. I mean, just come with a hell of a presentation because like if you're hitting me with that, okay, it's interesting, but aren't there a million of those? Right. So get me emotionally excited because all your numbers are going to be different then. Then the very next question is come to value. And just be frank, I'm going to shit over all your numbers. Oh, yeah. So don't say I'm being conservative. Don't say, best case. Be as ballsy as you want. Right. Because Now we're talking about what's my job as an investor. Those investors should be trying to pull you back a little bit, questioning you, honing your edge a little bit.
Right.
That's kind of key piece number 2. So, okay, what's the return that I'm going to expect?
Right.
And tell them how they're going to get that return.
Right.
So in your world, at some point, they're going to want to pay out. You may not be done with the bar business.
Right.
So do you have an answer to that?
Oh, saying like, if they want to get out.
So I invest in you.
Right.
So as a mature investor, you say, Jeff, my God, I have got this. This is just amazing idea. You're going to walk in here, there's beautiful women. You're going to have the best time you've ever had.
Right.
Fuck yeah, sign me up.
Right.
Okay, I'm interested. All right, then number 2 is double your money in 1 year. All right, okay, I'm listening.
Right.
Well, how do I get that money out? Because I know you want to go manage this bar and you want to run this bar. In fact, I think we've talked about you want to franchise this bar if you can get to it. Yeah, so
multiple locations.
Multiple locations.
Right.
So how do I get my money out?
I see what you're saying.
So it's an exit strategy for your investors.
Now,
up front.
In that situation, you're the one that brought this to me before when we talked, was you pay them a percentage every month towards the original investment, right?
Sure.
Paid back, and basically almost like a loan shark in a sense. But then they're going to get a percentage equity, whatever. So I don't know the answer to that question.
So it's something to think about as you're kind of going through this journey. Is just how are you going to extricate your investors? So if you do debt, so let's just talk a couple of vehicles. And again, I am not by any means certified financial advisor.
Right.
This is
just so everyone knows, not.
This is all go get a paid professional. Okay,
Right.
but these are just ideas, and
Right.
creativity comes the idea. So what if you just did debt? Well, debt is going to mature at some point. So you can say, look, guys, come invest with me. I'm going to pay you. So maybe it's risky. I'm pay you 5 points, 7 points, 10 points, whatever your market determines. And that is going to mature in 5 years. Okay, well, there's the exit plan. 5 years, you have something.
You'll be paid off in 5 years.
You'll be paid off in 5 years. Then you have what we talked about before was a convertible debt. And so ultimately you want to give these guys equity, but up front, you don't want to deal with the securities. So you don't want to deal with trying to get certified investors. You don't want to deal with, filing all the appropriate paperwork, because if you sell someone an equity, they want to make sure this is a mature person. You're not just pulling one over on them.
Right.
And so in this particular case, you say, like, I'm going to give you debt. It's going to, every year, it's going to go up 5%. And at the point we believe, because you're pre-revenue right now,
Right.
that the valuation of this bar will be, just easy numbers, $10 million.
Right.
And so at that point, you will have accrued X% equity within that $10 million.
Right.
I still have to have an exit strategy.
Right.
And so that may be that you have to buy them out at that point.
Okay.
And you will show them pro formas on cash of how you get there. You can look at that point, I'm going to sell the bar outright because I'm going to be bored with the concept.
Right. Exactly.
And you know that a bar's concept expires pretty quickly. So
Yes.
you may say, look, 2 to 3 years from now, you are going to turn this so that you can go do your next venture.
Right.
So that might be your exit strategy. And that really plays off to the full equity. Let's just say, look, you want to have true partners in this, whether they're silent or they're active. And I'm going to sell 40% of this. I want the majority stake, but I'm going to sell 40% of wherever I'm at. And just tell those guys, look, at the end of 3 years, we are going to sell this bar. Or I'm going to buy it back. And you need to prove to them how you're going to buy that back from them at that point. Because they don't want to be in this bar for the next 20 years with you.
Right.
Unless you've got some kind of dividends that they're paying. Just set those expectations. And maybe that's what it is. This is a value piece. Bar business that doesn't play too well.
Right.
But you've got to give them that value and that a way to extract their dollars.
So they know that they're never trapped. Basically.
That's exactly right. Because the more liquid you can make your investment, the more attractive it is to an investor.
Right.
So the reason, if equity, so most everyone has stocks. Okay, we'll make any assumptions. Most everyone has stocks. The most attractive thing about a stock is I can buy and sell that literally in microseconds.
Right.
It's easy. It's liquid.
Right.
You can go there. Real estate is hard.
Right.
I can't. The best case scenario, I can sell that 2 weeks, and I'm going to take a freaking bath on it because I'm selling it to someone who can pay me in cash and go do it in a couple of days.
Right.
So it's highly illiquid. Your bar could be a very illiquid. And so when you have something that I can't extract my dollars, so let's say I put $50,000 into your bar.
Right.
And you tell me, Jeff, that's gone for 5 years.
Right.
That's a different concept that I have because I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. What happens if interest rates go up to 15%? And I can go put that $50,000 into a bond
Right.
versus whatever I'm making with I want that money out. So give your investors on day one the opportunity to understand what it is. It also will stop fights later on.
Yeah.
Damn it, Cecil, I want.
I want my money out. Like, well, we have the deal. This is the contract. 5 years. This is when you're gonna get your money back or whatever. However the situation is, as long as you have it on paper, there's no coming after their money or whatever they sign the deal.
You might be saying, well, Jeff, you're kind of straying into the legal stuff. I am and I'm not, because the key here is an investment is as creative as you want to make it.
Right.
And so each of your investors, whether you're doing one investor or you have 10 investors or 1,000 investors, want different things out of it. And the more you can keep it fair, because you don't want to have different valuations for different investors, but the more you
date a bunch of different girls out.
that's tough. That's tough.
Spinning plates, man.
And that's the same in investing. So if you set up right now, it's like, look, everybody in, no one gets paid out for 5 years. We're going to do this as a 5-year concept. This is a 3-year concept. But let's say you need to get out. Here's your oh shit clause. Give them an oh shit clause.
Yeah.
And it might be that you're buying back that bar at a quarter of the valuation that it otherwise would be. That's your early penalty.
Right.
You know?
Out, like, it's going to be at this percentage.
But think through that, and immediately when that investor comes in, so you've sold me emotionally, like holy shit, this is going to be the greatest place in the world. I've got great returns. I now have an exit strategy. I know let's play 3 years for now because I think that's probably more realistic with the bar. So 3 years, I know I can get my money back, and you're promising me double in that 3 years or triple in that 3 years, whatever. I'm excited.
Right.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, I'm interested. Show me your business plan and let's start the due diligence.
Right.
So here's what an investor is going to be very impressed with you if you say, not a problem. You open up your briefcase and you slide across your business plan and you also slide across your due diligence.
Okay.
So let's break those into 2 pieces.
Okay.
1, your business plan. I love it. I see business plans that come across, they're 100 pages long. Wow. I mean,
you think I'm going to take the time?
That's a tough swallow to go read through all that. But 2 is, particularly on for that security when I talked, it's a newer company. They can't possibly know their business model in that kind of detail.
Right.
If I have a company who's been around for 20 years, their business plan may be 100 pages. Then I'm going to go through at detail to really understand kind of the ins and outs of it.
Right.
But you as a new startup, I mean, if you're 30 pages, you're probably too long. It's marketing. It's your cash flows.
Right.
Cash flows I'm going to pay attention to.
Right.
It's your vision. It's your pro forma about people you're going to hire. What are the upfront costs? Those are simple things that can be done quickly. But don't forget that executive summary up front. So that's the business plan.
Right.
All right. I just read your business plan. Fuck yeah. This is good.
Right.
Now due diligence.
So
due diligence is just a little bit different. So there's every investor is going to have different things that they care about. But I will tell you right now, 90% of it doesn't matter the industry you're in, doesn't matter the investor you are, is going to be the same. And you can go, without going verbatim here, you can go look up due diligence, angel investing, due diligence, investing, due diligence, whatever. And it's going to give you a list. But the key thing here is it's going to show maturity. Most people in your spot don't do this.
Right.
They do not. And this is having your contracts ready. This is having who you are, your background. Don't make me creep on you.
Right.
Show me who you are.
Right.
Show me the skeletons in your closet. Like, for example, on all of your financials, you may have, let's say you borrowed, $50,000 from a buddy of yours. It's not on your financials.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Right.
Don't surprise me. Now, you might want to surprise the bank, but don't surprise me.
Right.
And so, or you have, let's say a former employee or a former employer is going to sue you the minute you open this.
Right.
They're going to come after me because they don't want no surprises. And so if you disclose all of this in your due diligence, they're still going to go do more. There's no question, okay?
Right.
Unless they're just stupid. They're going to do more. Right. But what you've done is you have shown your maturity and you've sped the process up.
Right.
And so it's just it's a win-win for everybody.
Right. And that's good to know. Because I had a different form of that same, what you said with everything in my closet. I was just being upfront about everything, knowing who I am and my background, not just the good things, the bad things too. Like, hey man, this is what I have, my debt to income, whatever. And man, that's really good shit.
Good. I like it.
So, got the business plan written, did my due diligence. I've got both of them for them, sliding across.
So now we're getting into, so when we got to that point, now you get to the legal stuff.
Right.
Don't mess with the legal stuff beforehand.
Right.
And that's not universal. I'll tell you right now, you'll talk to some other people. A lot of people, let's see some of these contracts up front. The reality on the contract is if you've gotten that far into this marriage, people want to do business.
Right.
And the redlining of the contracts are going to get much easier at that point.
Right.
Because there's trust built.
Right.
So a lot of times we'll do, in my business, it's called Master Services Agreement. And before we ever negotiate anything, we will negotiate an MSA. And that Master Service Agreement.
Master Service Agreement.
So what it's doing is it's just dictating anytime I do business with you in any way, it's going to have the general guidelines with it. And so we're right in the middle of this just massive negotiation. We spent 45 days on MSA. You won't have to deal with any of that. This is
Right.
a much, much bigger deal on that particular case.
Team working on this.
We had a team working on it, and we just were at loggerheads. And we made a decision. So why don't we put this aside? And interesting enough, I was on the bad side of this. I said, no, because I said there are some really tough things that we actually need to talk about before we waste any other time. But I was wrong in this particular case.
Really?
Pushing the illegal aside, and this is why I kind of shifted my opinion to it, it allowed us to get down into what was the business we were going to do with each other. And so now we're having very productive conversations. We're getting excited.
Right.
Like we're going to go revolutionize this part of the business. Well, we still have to come back to that legal stuff. And I have no illusions. It's just going to be simple.
Right.
But I'll tell you right now, we're going to be coming from a much stronger point of trust because everyone's excited about this opportunity that, well, your valuation is just a little bit less than I thought. No, I want guys, look, really, is this going to be successful or is not? Because if you don't think it's going to be successful, just walk away.
Right.
Because I need people behind me and with me.
Yeah, and that's you always get somebody that's like, oh yeah, man, I'd love to invest with you, blah blah blah. And then, all right, man, well, let's meet. And then next thing you know, they're drawing along, doing all this shit, and I don't even know if they got the money, And so that's when I start doing my due diligence and digging in and finding out things about them, and like, whoa, man, sorry, man, I found somebody else, or I'm gonna use, and when people talk about, oh, so what's your plan? Well, I've got a business plan, but like, I need to see what you're talking about. What building you're talking? You got this building, cool, man. I'm not gonna just force my idea into that space. Like I got to see it, man. I got to feel it. I got to know, look at it. Like, why the fuck would I put a Irish pub in Beagle Mill? No, it's not.
Why? I have a problem.
Right. It's just dumb. Like you gotta see what fits the area and do your average household income in the area.
Median.
Yeah, median income. I was like, you gotta look at all these things, and then they're just like, no, man, I'm just gonna throw a bar in there and just shots and chicken. That's that old. I was like, let me guess, chick with big boobs behind the bar. That's what else.
Hey, low cut shirt. Don't forget that. Oh, I don't mind tats. I'm kind of I'm into that right now.
Yeah.
You're hitting it right on the point. This is not, and again, goes back to your first thing. It's like the investor does not have an advantage.
Right.
This should be a mutually peace. And I love the fact of what you're doing is by you having those conversations up front and setting up, you're saving people a lot of time. You say, look, you want to invest in my bar? I'll come talk to you about it. I love it. But just to be right up front, it's $25K minimum buy-in. And because you might not want to deal with anybody smaller than that.
Sure.
I met with a company. One of my friends just had a startup, and it's very exciting. It's very risky, and he was very upfront. He said two things. He said, number one is I have more than enough investors. He said, I'm not telling this to brag to you, but I'm telling you this because I want people in here because they want to and they believe in the vision that I have.
Right.
Number two is don't plan on making any money. That's a tough go first, but what was interesting about it, and this is why I said no size fits all. By the way, his seed funding, he filled it out and then some. He was 20% over his target seed funding because people believe in him, and he was very upfront in that due diligence. Says, look, guys, this is a flyer. Because he wants to build a platform that will change some financial metrics for a lot of companies.
Right.
I got him in with my company to have a conversation. There wasn't a fit there. He's still pre-revenue, but he has some big name clients to it. But the key element there, and you've got the same thing.
Right.
You have a wealth of knowledge. You're well spoken. People know who you are. They like you. And you got a strong head on your shoulder. Well, I know the one guy. So,
right.
but those are all assets and value you bring.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily advocating that you say, oh, I'm going to lose you money.
Yeah, right. Obviously.
But don't underestimate the fact that you guys want to do business with me. And that's something I think a lot of people who are looking for investors forget. They're coming in as a subservient. Well, can you give me some money? This is a hell of an idea that I'd love to have. You don't have to be an asshole about it.
No.
I'd love you to be a part of, but I want to be very, very clear. There's some risk here. This is not a concept that has played before here in St. Louis, but I think it's going to work, and here's why.
Right. And I don't even worry. Like, some people are like, oh, you got to get NDAs and all this other, like, why? None of those guys can take what I have.
No.
And to me, if somebody's like, oh, I want to talk to you about investing in your place, but I want to sign an NDA, why do I need to sign an NDA? One, I know you're not going to take my ideas because you're not going to remember them. Two, you don't work hard enough to get them done. And three, we're not building a fucking rocket, man. It's not like you can photocopy this technology and sell it to somebody else. Like, no. You want to talk about it? We can talk. It's just finding common ground. And anytime the NDA comes up, it's like, shut the fuck up.
I mean, look, it's not a horrible idea, before we have all the conversation NDA, but you're correct. And it's, again, go talk to a lawyer, go talk to an attorney.
It's the fucking,
Well, the interesting thing about it, particularly in software, you can IP process the software in and of itself. You can't necessarily go IP this. And again, go talk to a lawyer, but I'm sitting down with general counsel because I'm like, I want to IP this, and just really showing my ignorance in the space. And she's like, well, actually, this is how we would have to look at it. It was fundamentally different. But to your point, you know the energy you've put into this.
Right.
You know all the shit that you've gone through to get here. If someone can just go take your idea and go turn it tomorrow, well, guess what? There was 20 guys who already had that idea who can go make that happen.
Right.
So I think you're okay being a little cavalier with it.
Exactly. And that's what's funny is, like, people are like, I was having a conversation with a person the other day, and it wasn't about investing, but it was about the business. And they said a couple things, and then I came back, and basically how you're talking to me about finance, that's how I was talking about the business. And then they're like, how do you know this stuff? Did you go to bartending school? And I'm like, no, I've been eating shit for 12 years in this industry, and I started as working the door and sweeping up floors and just sitting back and watching. And their mouth was shut, because even with the business side of it, they just didn't understand how I knew so much about it. And they're like, oh, your degree's in exercise science. I'm like, what the fuck does my degree have to do with what this conversation is going on now? But whatever, I have learned, and it's taken a lot. Losing the ego when I'm talking to people, because nobody's gonna I don't know a whole lot in life, but I do know this bar business. It's my thing. Like, there's got to be something to it. If I have three sisters that are doctors, there's got to be some smarts up here somewhere.
You're playing the genetics card on this.
This
nice,
is genetics.
nice.
But it's funny that I've let go enough to where I let people. Used to, I was just kind of pretty standoffish about it, but I've let go and I listen now, and it's helped me out a lot. And that's one thing with investing and talking to investors is since they were able to drink, they want to own a bar. So they're going to have all these ideas, and I'll hear them out. And that's great, cool, man. You're a silent partner.
Hey, I've got like 50 ideas for you. I can't wait for you to take them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
In your head, I mean, you and I come from kind of like the same philosophical cloth.
Yeah.
The more you shut up and listen, the more you learn. Every time I think, oh man, I know this, like I get schooled that next day. It's a constant journey to keep learning. I noticed you have Tim Ferriss sitting up there, and he's got his real life MBA out there. And so I've gone through school. I've got my master's in business administration, and it's great. It gives you a framework, but it does not replace for 1 second eating shit.
Right, exactly.
And but the difference of the people is like you paid attention while you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that shit again.
Exactly.
Versus, all right, I'll take a second helping of that.
Right, exactly. And that's funny. And I never try to talk about stuff I don't know. Like, I'll ask people about it who I think might know something about it. Just like the CBD oil that I texted you about the other day. I started looking into that. Taste a lot. And that's what I've learned. Just don't stay in my own lane all the time. expand out, taste and learn. And Tim Ferriss is the man, by the way. That dude does. Did you hear about this last thing he did? He just went to Burning Man, and he did. Basically, they had these tents set up for somebody's freaking out on drugs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They would like take care of him and talk to him and let him know if they're having a bad trip or whatever. And he did the midnight to 8 shift, midnight to 8 a.m. shift, like for 7 days or whatever during Burning Man. And he's gonna write a book about it. Like it was insane to him telling the story. The dude does.
It's just taking everything, and building like mental assets and physical. I listened to a Maximum Security podcast he did, and I did not want to listen to it, but I listened to it because it put these criminals in a much different light for me. And kind of broke out some of the barriers that I have around that. So I know we're way off topic there, but right. No. I do want to finish two things on kind of that investment. So you signed the deal, so you got through legal, party, and I know that sounds stupid, but one of the things that I've learned kind of in the past year is when you get that approval, you get that move forward. Whether it's again something in my own personal life or this. Have that celebration, mark that occasion that this is something fundamentally new. When we bought our first house, and I did this particular company with some of my family members, and I remember, and I still have it, my brother sent me a card. And I was like, well, first I have 4 boys, so I'm like, all right, what the fuck is this? But it was a kind of a touching celebration, is like, to new things, to that kind of journey. And it resonates because we've had shitty times. You have the times when, things are not going well. Money's not coming in.
Yeah.
Fucking furnace blows up. X, Y, and Z.
Right.
It goes on, and it goes back to those times that this started out with the intentions that we had, and it's that reminder. So that initial party, whatever it may be, as simple as a card or to like literally kind of throwing a party, like cracking the champagne. It starts out something even more important, and it's that ongoing relationship with your investors. So a big trap that people fell into. So I had to fly out to Silicon Valley last week for this trap, is that we lost contact. And so you need to have a regular and set it up as part of your guys. Like once you invest, every month you're going to get a financial statement. Every quarter you're going to get a P&L. Here's how we're talking. And don't let that just be an email.
Right.
That needs to be a call. If everyone's local, preferably that is you meeting with your investors face to face, because it's a journey. And so and this is common out here, but it's an easy way to think about an investment. There's J curves and S curves, but easier is to think about in seasons.
Right.
When you start off, that moment you start off is like the best time you're going to have for a little bit. Now, if you get lucky and this place is just going absolute apeshit, congratulations. But let's assume it goes like most investments. You are pouring money into this thing. Shit's going to happen. And so you're in winter. Winter sucks. There's just no way around it. But building those relationships with your investors at that point, for those first 6 months, first year, when the shit hits the fan, whether it's in that winter period, that early kind of J portion of that curve, you're going to have their trust. You're going to be able to get through it, that they're not calling, well, I got 50 more ideas for you, because you clearly don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Obviously. And that's, I think it goes back to the upfront thing, just being upfront, not only in the initial meeting, but then also as you're growing as a company, like, hey guys, this is what's going on. The fucking road was closed to the interstate, so people couldn't get down here. So this last half month has been off just because people can't get to the bar.
Yep.
And talking about that, or in the summertime, well, yeah, this weekend was down because there was concerts in the park and all this other stuff going on. Like there's festivals and shit. And I think painting that picture and letting them know that shit's going to happen is exactly where I'd want to be upfront with them. Like, you can't be looking at the numbers every day and like, oh, we're down $50 and calling me. Like, if we're down $200, I'm going to call you and be like, hey man, this is why this day was down. Maybe it'll get to that point, but it's a relationship, any kind of relationship, being open, and talking about the shit. And I guess with investing, it would be the same thing.
Daily is too much, though.
Yeah, daily, obviously.
I can tell you, but that's the thing, is you as the manager, obviously you want your managers to tell you what's going on daily. But I think you're hitting the right thing. Just, I can't stress it enough that I see this all the time. I see this with my direct employees. I see this with businesses that I'm doing business with, is that they get busy. And it's all the right reasons, and that report doesn't come out.
Right.
whether it's a monthly or quarterly. And with your bar to say the vagaries of kind of quarterly business, I think I would say, guys, you're going to get a quarterly report, barring we're off by like more than 30%.
Right.
Build that in there. But people get busy, and it's the first thing that drops because you're like, well, shit, if I don't open the doors tomorrow for this event, we're going to lose all this money.
Right.
But you erode that trust with your investors. And I know it sucks, but you have to find the way to make sure that communication happens when you promised.
Right.
Which is also to the last point.
Right.
And that 3 years hits, that mid-year, whenever those payouts are, your reputation's on the line. Because hopefully this is not the last business that you're building.
Right. Exactly.
And so make sure you pay your investors. And if you're not going to pay your investors, okay, shit happens. You don't. If everything was a slam dunk, it'd be a different world right now, right?
Definitely.
Make sure you're upfront. And a lot of things that I've seen, and even when things go poorly, there's two poorlies. It's poorly the guy who ducks out the back door. There's a guy who poorly owns up to everything and does everything he can to make it right. That person, I might lose 50 grand. I might lose 100 grand with them. And after my wife's done kicking my ass, I'm going to come back and invest with them again because I trust them. And again, they shut down 40 on you again. You know what I mean? Can you fix that? Did you foresee that? Well, if I found out that you did know about it and you were over it, that was a different issue.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of, to me, that's the investment cycle, from painting that emotional picture to closing out and paying them out. And hitting each of those steps. While it's not, I still don't want you to walk away, oh, this is how you do investments.
Right.
It is certainly a very generalized way that you check those boxes, you're going to have a successful investment.
Right. And that's, it's just so funny that we're having this conversation and you're seeing the things that I never had to put words to, but it's like, I've learned also in these last couple of years that never blame cast. And especially if it's my fucking ship, I put this ship together. I built this fucking ship, and it's going down. We're right there at the fucking wheel, man. And that's who I am, and that's just I can't imagine any other way. Like blaming the city and blaming these other people. Like, man, it was my fault. I should have known, or I should have fucking put it out there early and made a video on how to get to the bar the best way. Something like that. Like, 40 shutting down. Well, you go this way, whatever. Like. That's the type of shit. That's where my brain goes with it, and relaying that to them and building that trust is, to me, it seems so simple because all I ever had is people trusting me and like try not to let people. I'm sure I've let people down. I'm sure. I'm sorry. But now I've really made. I don't look at the past anymore. I'm just looking forward and trying to live the day. But still, man, it's still a tough ask to be like, hey man, I need $250,000.
But you don't. So let's talk about that. So the psychology of the investment ask, and the number one thing I'm hearing from you, without going to psychology here, is that you're thinking you're asking somebody for money.
Right.
You're absolutely not. You are giving someone an opportunity to better their family, to better their life, and once you've kind of committed that everyone wins, and this is why the value proposition is so key. You're not asking for people for money, and that was. So I'm saying, So I go to a lot of my partners, and this is So let's talk about value. All the different values that you can bring. They're not just necessarily an investor, and we can talk about all the value propositions a bar can bring to the community, to your suppliers, to the real estate, to everything. But to start with is like, so when I look at an investment, I look at who I'm going to go do business with.
Right.
And sometimes I am getting paid to deploy another company's X, be it hardware, software, solution, X, Y, and Z. And I introduced a very upfront, kind of almost like, well, we don't do that. And it's basically asking these companies to help co-invest with me. Will you spend $100,000 with me to help me hire people to help build this business? They said, well, we can't do that. We're going to go make money off of this. And I said, yes, we are. But they are too. And so by recognizing that value up front, and so in this particular case, what I can do is I can dramatically improve Company X's portfolio because I can get their product out to channels that they never dreamed of, customers that they can't even get a meeting with. And I can execute in such a way that not only does it happen on day one, But 3 years when that renewal comes up, they want to because it was such a great experience. Well, that's value. So I don't even blush to come say, hey, I would like you to co-invest. And I phrase it that way. I want you to co-invest with me because I'm investing too. Don't for a second think that you're not investing.
Right.
Your money's going to be in there. But more importantly, your blood and sweat's going to be in there.
Definitely. And
people are out there right now. These companies love it. Oh my God, can I get access to the channels that your company can provide? Hell yeah, you can.
Right.
For you you might have, let's just talk about investors first. You have an outlet for them for our bro investors, you have an outlet for them to realize this dream and, go bed. Anybody that can go bed.
Right.
For a value investor, you're giving them an opportunity. They got money sitting there. What are you going to do? Put in the stock market and crash again like 2008 again?
Right.
You have a recession-proof industry
right.
that you may actually go up if shit hits the fan again. So you're bringing value to these guys because I've got family members who they're like, just give me a place to go. Where should I put this money?
Right.
And that's a hard thing to say because you don't know what's going to fail. So same kind of conversation we have right now, I'll have with them too. Is like, well, what are you passionate about?
Right. Exactly.
So you're never asking for anything.
True.
You are giving someone the opportunity. The minute you make that switch, your proposals, your mentality of how you go and attack the day is going to fundamentally shift.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh.
And it's blowing my mind here, Jeff.
I like it.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, none of this is sort of, it's obvious stuff, but sometimes it's like just kind of like talking about it out loud.
Yeah.
It just puts it in a frame of reference.
Right.
Like, oh shit, no shit.
Framing,
yeah.
I've been reading a lot about framing lately and just framing conversations and how to, when you're talking to people, how to frame the conversation. And it's that method is blowing my mind actually. Like a lot of like how I've been framed in the conversation, like to get me to do something, and I'm like, fuck, frame. God damn it! You used what I wanted to hear to get me to do this, and I'm like, God damn it, that motherfucker.
It just makes it easy. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, humans are pretty stupid, but if you can put it in something that they know and they reference, I mean, I use, to explain my business is hard, but if I bring it back down to like, okay, the analogous to constructing a house. What do I know as a house?
Right.
What do I know as plumbing?
Right.
So if I can build that metaphor back, also like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that. So in your space, I want to explore a little bit about value and all the value that you're doing. So when you do a bar, and I don't know your industry that well, so you're gonna have to kind of help pull me along here, but look beyond just. I think a lot of people, if you just kind of do one-dimensional thought, it's I'm gonna build a bar, people are gonna come drink there, and that's my value. So that's on your consumer side. On your investor side, I'm going to build a bar and I'm going to return their money, and that's your world. So you have 3 people, but really your world is bigger than that. So one of the world, and I had I got to talk to your friend, and I forgot what company he worked for, but when I was in the 1860s, and he was talking all about the liquor resale business. I was absolutely fascinated. No idea what those margins were, how that was sold, and et cetera, et cetera. Beard suit, yes, Simon. So. So it was just like, I'm just like soaking this stuff in of like what he's telling me. And I'm like, holy shit, just completely different business models. But there's a fundamental aspect. And he was speaking about a specific wine. I won't say it in case it's a trade secret of his. Right. But he's like, his margins were greater than on other ones. And then he was talking about specific vendors who are trying to break into the market have more to give. So what if you looked at, again, this may not be viable, but what if you looked at, instead of just saying, well, I got to go buy all of this liquor, can you be a venue for new alcohol companies to come in and to try things? Yeah. And that's like, then how do you get funding for them to maybe fund you the first 90 days?
So what you have to do in this situation, so everybody, for the most part, has distributors that they go through. My buddy Jay, I think you've met him before, he's actually a district manager for one of the companies. And you can get financing, but you can't try to get financing to get all this liquor 2 weeks before you're going to open the doors.
Okay.
So he's like, you have to be 3 months before you're going to open the doors. You start the financing process to get funded. The liquor, let's just say that you want to keep a little bit extra cash on, just whatever. You could get, like you said, 90 days, like to pay this back bill or whatever. And then with the smaller ones, a lot of times what they'll do is like he'll say, "Hey man, can you carry this beer, whatever XYZ beer that my homie brewed in his basement, but now he put whatever." Anyway, he's like, "If you buy it, I'll come in and I'll send in a rep or a marketing person. They'll come in and buy all that back. So you're not out any money, but you got their product in there and they bought it back from you. But you're still selling it. That happens all the time. Any new product.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's how they do that. And then with the smaller guys, they give away a lot more, just trying to get their stuff on the shelves. And granted, all that stuff's hot right now, but it's getting so diluted in the sense that, like, hey man, I can't carry all fucking local because I don't know where all the local like. There's just so much local now.
Sure.
It's like, and then the look. It's worse with the smaller guys when you're like, when you don't order from them again. They're like, oh man, we're local. Your product sucks, man. Sorry, but you can't say that. It's just like, oh, it wasn't doing well. We expected it to perform this way. It didn't quite get to where we were expecting it to. But in his mind, he's like, I know that round sucks. I'll have to come back to him later. It's a whole game to play. And then you get the reps that are trying to get you to buy the stuff from them that they're getting higher markups on, which is business. I understand it.
Sure.
But the problem, what happens is you'll see a lot of smaller bars that have all commercial stuff on their liquor behind the bars.
Because that's how they're financing everything.
Exactly. Because they're getting bonuses for buying this case, and you get if you buy 5 cases of it, we'll give you 2 free, and it's just
sure.
It's the name of the game, and for them, it's the best financial decision. But they don't think about. They think in micro, not thinking the macro.
You can't dilute your vision. That's the number one thing. But I love the fact that you're already thinking through this, because when you do that due diligence and say, here's how, because everything is your cost. How do you, when you look at that investment, you don't have to look at it monolithically.
Right.
So it sounds like you've already gone down this path, which is beautiful, to say, I may be able to defer some of my liquor costs.
Right.
And then this is part of your due diligence pack, is that here's the financing agreement that I have ready to sign once we have the green light. What this is going to do, though, is it's going to make, because those first 90 days are crucial. May not have people in there. So it can defer some of those cash flow issues you have on. As an investor, I want to see that.
Right.
So we touched on early on. So another way you can start to segment out this investment is, do you have to buy the house? Do you have to buy the building?
Right.
So you're a bar owner. And so you see this. So look at Fortune 500 companies that we're going to divest because this wasn't part of our core business. Well, the reality is they divest. So instead of bringing things together, they're going to kick it out. So for people who are following right now, we'll date this thing as GE is like kicking off all their business. GE was this massive conglomeration of it.
Right.
They're just getting rid of everything they possibly can so they get back to their core. We see this a lot in my business, is that people, particularly in security, they're spending so much time, effort, and money on an area they don't really do that well. And so our consultancy and our day 2 support, so basically we sell them something, and now we'll bring the guys in to actually go run it. They love it because it doesn't take away from them doing healthcare or banking or selling a sandwich. So you might be thinking the same way too. So to build the bar, let's say it's $1 million, but what if half of that cost is really just in the building? So you can get really creative, is find an investor who just wants to build a building. Now that may hurt your long-term vision, so there's ways to protect. This is where you get interesting. Put an option on it.
Right.
So instead of buying that building, let someone else buy it, lease it back to you for 5 years, but for say $40,000, you can have a 5-year option at a specific cost. So again, now you don't have $1 million to ask for, you have $500,000. Well, 10,000 of that was around liquor for those first 90 days. Okay, I got that covered. Break the rest of your stuff out like that. So you can get really creative. What are other areas that people may want to be in, and how do you get interesting to it? And so what I mean by interesting is, if you see everything the same way everyone else sees, you're not really adding any additional or unique value. And so the best you can do is kind of look for average results. But if you can look at something and go crazy with it, you look at something and say, for God's sake, like, let's say a new seat manufacturer is like, we just need to get into St. Louis. For some reason, they have to get in St. Louis. Great. My bar is going to be the hottest thing in the world. Let me come here. I'm going to let you put a label. I don't love it, but it's going to save me another $10,000 in these seating costs. whatever those things may be. Or let's do this as like, hey, we're going to build this bar, and my bar is this whole idea of this eclectic bar.
Right.
We're actually going to let the neighborhood help build this over time,
Mhm.
and that everyone can again assign to it like that.
Right.
Again, these are probably really shitty ideas, but the purpose of them is not that they're good, valid ideas. Is that think about each one of your costs. How do you segment that out and finance that individually?
Right.
Whether it's an investor holistically or in
Yeah,
that
section
specific
off,
area.
So, and it's funny that I have been doing that. Like I've been checking to find old basketball court because basketball is like my thing,
Mhm.
my love, and stacking up sections of it to build my bar up.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, an old basketball court. If that fits that situation with,
Sure.
with the place or whatever. If I was able to get an older building that already had a bar, been sitting there forever, I'm not going to replace it, but maybe the floor might be hardwood, like basketball. And that's something, that'd be cool to me,
Mhm.
or old whiskey barrels into a floor. I've been looking at that. I've actually been going to bars and buying up some of their old bar swag.
Is that right?
Yeah, just that way I don't have to worry about putting up all this new shit or buying shit for the walls.
Mhm.
I've already got it set up, and I just bought it from the sitting in the back of this bar. I've been there for 10 years. Just cool old pieces that would look great in a bar. That type of shit, I'm on top of.
You're on top of.
Yeah, I'm trying at least.
So then the other aspect too is that when you go out for your various loans, so let's just kind of talk about financing. So the key opportunities would be your banks will probably lend you anything that you have collateral against.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of divest that stuff away from your business, bank's going to probably give you the best rates. It's going to be I'm going to say the easiest to get. It's not really the easiest. They're going to run you through hell, but it's the least complicated. You don't have to go through. They're going to do their own due diligence. They're going to run through the underwriters and stuff like that. But if all your kitchen equipment, all of your back equipment has, let's say, a 40% residual value, you should at least be able to get them to loan you 40%.
Right.
And so you can pull that away from having to ask, but really offering what is probably going to be either giving away your equity, which is you should always be loath to do because you believe in this idea more than anyone else. But also, if you do from a debt structure, people are going to want the maximum because they know
debt structure is just so everybody understands it. Debt structure is where they're investing and you're indebted to them and you're paying that back. That debt.
Correct. So debt is they do not own the business. They own a promissory note, basically saying that you're going to promise them back something. Now, the promissory note is generally backed by something concrete. You may have nothing concrete to that, and that's okay because you're literally selling them on, I'll just say, Cecil Inc.
Right.
So you are selling Cecil Inc. So that $1 million proposition, Cecil Inc. is only worth $250,000.
Right.
Building's worth $500,000, and all of the material inside of it, which you found a bank to lend on it. So this $1 million elephant, you just now chunked down to $250,000. Not bad.
Right.
Now you have to find some people who are interested in $250,000 to say, well, maybe you only want to sell 10% equity.
Right.
And then the debt portion is, I'm going to go debt the rest of it. So one thing.
Hard money, not necessarily hard money lender.
I wouldn't do a hard money.
No,
I would. And hard money lenders are very good for the right purposes.
Right.
You're looking for something, hard money lender, and I don't know what the rates are, but a couple of years ago they were a point a month, with some opening and closing points. So I can't imagine what they're at now.
Quick side story that did have. There's a guy that I see quite often, and he's a hard money lender. And he offered me money to go get some of his money back. I was like, man, I'm not breaking anybody's arm for you. He's like, no, you don't threaten them. You just make them feel really uncomfortable. I was like, no, man, I think I'm okay on that, man. I don't think that's quite. I'll give you, such and such amount of money. I was like, stop this,
dude. I'm good.
I was like, no, I don't need it. I can't. No, I'm not doing it. Anyway, those hard money guys. I'm not the fucking mafia. I'm a big dude, but at the end of the day, I'm a fucking mafia. So like, so debt, you can do it as debt, and then you can do an investment where you give up a piece of the pie, which you loathe to do, and then but with the debtors, you're going to have to pay points.
The debtors, you're going to pay something,
right?
And the key on the debtors is you owe it back at some point. You will always owe it back at some point because I assume they're going to want a personal guarantee from you. I will, as a cautionary tale. So I had another buddy who went to do his own, and now he put most of his own money in there because he didn't want to give away any equity.
Right.
And what he ended up finding out, and he's subsequently gone on to do other successful. This is an abysmal failure, this particular one. You learn a lot from your failures.
Right.
But one of the things that he had learned in that is that he held on his equity so tightly that he never really brought in, I would say, the people he needed to bring in, people who could make connections to him, people who could be in an advisor role for him, bounce ideas off, make sure he doesn't do something stupid. And in the end of the day, 100% equity of $0 is still $0.
Correct.
So the advantage of equity, though, is someone who believes you in investing. So let's just, again, we keep going down to our model. So you've farmed off the real estate piece of it. You got a nice option. So if this is hugely successful, you can still buy that building from them.
Right.
So you remain control, but you don't have to deal with it. You have standard SBA loan for all of the hardware that you need. There's another $250,000. And let's say you get that for 8 points. Great. That's fantastic. So now you're in that last 250, and let's just say you have no money to give.
Right.
Which in some ways you probably shouldn't, because of the amount of effort and time you're going in there. So like I'm gonna take a $30,000 salary out of this. So this 250 has got to basically fund the business for the first X period. We're gonna stock up on, or hire people, payroll, all that stuff. That's why I need $250,000 seed money. In that particular case, is that if you do debt, let's just say you do 10%, annualized 10%. This is easy math. Okay, it's $25,000 every year you're going to owe. Now you may say, look, guys, I'm not going to pay this back to you for 3 years. It's going to accrue. It's going to be more of a bond type of scenario. Right. So the end of the year, end of the period of time, you're going to owe. What is it? I do my math right here. $325,000, $75,000 of interest, $25,000 or $250,000 of principal.
Right.
That's a lot of money. So now, if you split that, we split that, and there's, again, you can go out on the web. There's all these ratios to kind of an optimum piece where interest rates are. Right. Let's say you give up 50% of your business, and that goes $125,000. Your carrying costs go down half too. You're only at 12.5. So the end of that period, you're really only looking at like 37.5 as opposed to $75,000.
Right.
It's a meaningful difference against what's happening there. Now, if you're not successful, guess what? These guys who bet equity with you, they didn't make any money.
Right.
And that's really the opportunity that they have and they don't have. Your debtors, your promissory, you still own that money.
Right.
Otherwise, you're in default, and they can come sue you and everything else of that nature. Now, again, if you commit crimes on the equity, they're going to come and sue you.
Still zero.
But 100% is zero. Now, if you're wildly successful, let's just say your business is worth $10 million now. Well, you're going to go pay back all those people in the initial thing. So that's 125 plus the 37,000. So let's just, for easy numbers, just say 150,000. Well, you made a lot of money.
Right.
But your investors made a lot of money. That should be a good thing.
Right.
Because the next time when you go say, okay, guys, this is great, let me go pay you back, because your $5 million more than covers, for that 100% ownership. But more appropriately, you say, all right, guys, I'm going to open 3 more of these.
Right.
And give you guys first rights. And this is where I think you should be thinking on this first one. Bring in those investors. Sell 49% of it. Sell whatever you feel comfortable. Because if you're really going to be successful, it may be that, okay, guys, round 2, Cecil redo. Cecil number 2 is going up.
Right.
Only selling 15%.
Right.
Because now this is the interesting thing. You just had I know I'm going crazy numbers here. You just had a $10 million winner right here. This thing is just pouring money in.
Right.
These guys are going to be falling over themselves to go get that 15% that you sell. You can put probably any valuation you want it, because they know you're a winner.
Right.
So sometimes in the position you're in right now, if you want to go in with zero, you want to hold on get as least risk as you can to go through this. There maybe look at the long game too. Not saying it's right for you.
Right.
But it's something to consider.
Right. Macro, man. And that's where a lot of people, especially in the area I'm in, I see a lot of people focus on the micro and they never think of the macro. And I think that's where I have an advantage over, because a lot of them in the area I'm wanting to go into, they're never going to see it coming. And it's just, like we talked about earlier, the snowball starts rolling.
Starts rolling.
So, man, really good shit. Maybe some company will hire you someday to do.
Someday. Turn this around.
So, is there anything else you wanted to add to that? I wrote down a lot, but I'm just going to rewatch this episode like 10 times.
No, this is again, this is I'm so excited for you. I mean, you've been busting your ass for years in kind of preparation for this.
Yeah.
This is about creativity at this point.
Yeah.
This is about like getting that vision to everybody else. And I think you have people crawling all over you to say, let's go do this.
Right. And it's just like you were with me when I split ways with the last place I worked at,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have a plan, didn't have anything, and I think it called me. I was like, fuck, I was shitting my pants. Going up to it, and then went 18 hours without a job. Like nobody even knew I quit. But then when my phone was off, and I turned it off, and I turned it on the next day. I had 7 messages from 7 different places wanting to hire me, and it went 18 hours, and it's like fuck, and like mind blowing. And then now, like with this, I know what I'm doing. I'm confident in myself. I know my truth. I know that I know how to do this. And it's like, it used to have, in my mind, it was always, I have to have the perfect spot. But now it's like, pretty sure whatever spot I make is going to be perfect. And that's where my mindset is right now. And now that I know these opportunities is there, and like really just talking with you and talking with the people that I'm talking before it, this road's fucking hard.
It's a hard road.
No matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got the background in it now that it doesn't make it a bad investment. Whereas everybody says, "Oh, restaurants are bad investments." You're not investing in a restaurant, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
You're investing in me.
Yep.
You believe in me, we're gonna get this done. And that mentality is what I'm taking now, and I'm just fucking pumped, man. It's like, why am I dragging my feet? I don't know, it's anything. It takes a second.
It does take a second.
Big fucking jump.
It is a big jump, but I think that you're, from everything we've talked about, you're well prepared to understand this is not easy. And I think that's where, when people say restaurants are a bad investment, it's because of, we started this conversation, the bros. It's people like, oh, I want to go to a restaurant because it's so ubiquitous. Everyone has a restaurant. And so it's easy to think about it. Well, I know how to cook food at home. I can cook food at scale.
Right.
It's 2 different things. But you look around, and this industry better than I do here in St. Louis. But the guys who are doing Bailey's, there's a lot of very successful restaurateurs here because they know the concept. They treat it as a business from day one. It's not a place to go buy your buddy's shots, although a little marketing goes a long way.
Exactly.
And they're going after it. So, man, I'm bullish.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm pumped. So I don't even know what to say, man. I'm just like sitting here, everything's running through my head. I'm fucking pumped. And the one thing that I forgot to mention earlier, but I'm gonna bring it up now here at the end of this, was this opportunity that I have now that I'm getting ready to meet with this guy. With I know in my head that going into it, he could go to one of those people that own those big chains that are here, and they'd be falling head over heels for that spot. And so my biggest hurdle I'm having to get over is explain to him, like, yeah, you could go with one of those guys. You could easily go with one of those guys. But that's just going to be another place to them. Like, this is an epic building you're building. I want to build something epic for you that is going to be my baby and my first thing that I get involved with. Yeah, you could go with them, but don't you want somebody that's passionate about what you built to build along with you, that's going to be there every day in the dirt doing the shit? And I think that's the angle that I'm going to play. Maybe like, nah, I'm going to take a safe investment. All right, man, cool. Take the safe one.
And you'll thank him, and he will think about that on his next investment about, maybe this is not the right one, or maybe it is the right one for him to take the gamble on the. Think about baseball.
Yeah.
You kind of got into this or the Rams right now. Unfortunately, the Rams right now. But look, they hired this young kid, and they're freaking rocking it. Everyone's like, that's stupid. This guy he's never done this before. You're putting him in this role.
He's younger than me.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But I love that play.
Right.
And that play might even get stronger if you come after him and say, look, this is how much I believe in it. You're going to pay me nothing.
Right.
Clear this with Blair. But I want a little equity in this. This is how much I believe in this.
Right.
Let me go make us a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other place that I was going to. That'd be hard when you get past her.
There is always keeping a roof over your head
Right,
that
exactly.
comes
Like,
into
get
play.
it. Downsize, go live with your buddies in the one-room apartment. I'm 38, man. Like, I'll live in my own one-room apartment and sleep on the floor. I have no problem doing that. But at the end of the day,
But you hear a lot of those guys say that that's a negative, being at the age we have, having families like we have. Yes, we can't just pick up
Right.
and leave and go do that. But
Right.
the support that our families provide us when we go into this is just, you can't devalue that
No.
either.
That's what, and I never devalue a family man or a family person or somebody that doesn't want to work X amount of hours because they're happy. Which, cool, man, be happy. That's not me.
Mhm.
That makes you happy, cool, man. I'm happy for you. I'm glad you can do that. I'm glad you work 40 hours a week. You go home, you watch your shows, you go play softball, you go whatever. That's cool. I just can't do it. I'm just always looking for, like, not necessarily what's next, but it's like everything I used to do was always like, oh, I'm just trying this.
Mhm.
Now I'm just kind of like roped it in because I'm learning how to rope it in and like pointing my Death Star that is me like at this thing to like just go in there and fuck this thing up and just show everybody, like, look, man. And it's not that I have to prove anything to them, but at the end of the day, I'll never tell the people that have doubted me. I'll never say shit to them, but I know they know. I know they know
Hey,
that I fucking did.
a chip on your shoulder is not a bad thing because it's going to quitting is a learned behavior. So if you fuck them, I will show them.
Yeah.
Fine,
Cool, man.
treasure.
Yeah. And then it's so funny how used to I'd get pissed off about it, but now whatever. I don't even fucking anymore. But like I'd suggest something to do and then wouldn't do it, and then all of a sudden they do it. Oh yeah, I've had this idea forever, blah blah blah. And then you see it just fucking killing it. And a lot of people, that's too much for their ego, and they're gonna let everybody know that was my fucking idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just like, cool, man, that's a great job.
Mhm.
I know, because I know the truth. At the end of the day, all that matters is my truth, not theirs.
And an idea that's all it is. An idea and a quarter still not going to get you a cup of coffee. I mean, honestly, the hard part is the work.
It is. It is. Everybody has great ideas. Everybody wants to tell their story. Everybody wants to give you their ideas. Cool, man. What are you gonna do about it? And that's the mentality I take. Like, what am I doing? Like, hey, I need capital. I'm gonna try to do this on my own. What do I have that I can provide to people that they were willing to pay for? It's my knowledge. I get this knowledge that may not be the best thing knowledge to have in the bar business, but I got it, so might as well share it. And that's what this podcast, why this started up. And I was like, well, I gotta put a little something into it. Like, what's the drive behind it? What are you doing it for? And it's the journey.
But what a great idea. You're giving back simultaneously as you're progressing yourself. And God knows who that puts you in contact with, who,
Right.
jointly you guys kind of both realize the dream. So
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. See, thank you, man.
No, this was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. I will be back next week with another round. And thanks again to Jeff and dropping knowledge that way beyond what I thought. So awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?